19 keys, and this is high level conversation.
Well, I like to think about the world keeps us distracted all day, and our energy is constantly going out, 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 out. We're often in social environments so that we don't have to think, right? And so most people can't come up with an original thought to save their life because they don't have any time to think for themselves to even develop their own pattern of thinking.
Well,
right?
People are fighting for survival.
100%.
It's like you have to get out of the lower rungs of the Maslow's hierarchy or the steps of Maslow's hierarchy of needs in order to get into higher order thought. If you're fighting for survival from one day to the next, you don't have time to think about self-actualization or self-transcendence.
Well, no, because that ain't got nothing to do with your bills.
That's right.
So you gonna think about it.
Your wife beating on you. You have time to be, I'm thinking about enlightenment, baby. No, that's not happening.
Man, listen, I got bigger things. You see the planet and the way things are aligned right now.
Yeah.
Man, if you don't pay this light bill.
That's right. Exactly.
Talking about you enlightened and we in the dark.
That's right.
They don't work like that. You can't be woke and broke, man. If you consider yourself to be an enlightened being, learn how to use the resources of this world in a way to construct something for yourself.
Exactly.
Right. So I believe that there's a responsibility that comes along with enlightenment. I've gotten to that point where, you know, it's you get to a point where you have this understanding that nothing matters. Right. You get to this ultimate edge of enlightenment and you can say, well, that's the case. Why do anything? But for me, being someone that lives in a world, I find it be irresponsible to be in my enlightenment and try to just stay in this state of nirvana and bliss forever while ignoring all of the atrocities of the world.
And I think one of the big reasons we're here is to learn how to feel empathy for all of it. And if we just go into a solipsism approach and believe that, you know, all of it's fake, so why get, you know, freaked out about any of it? It's not real. Then that's not really enlightenment. I think you kind of missed the point. I think the point is really to learn here and to learn how to feel the feelings that are for every circumstance that come up. And the only thing that maybe arguably that we could say is real in this life is what we feel. That's like, I believe that simply the one divides itself into the many for the joy of perceiving itself through our own unique eyes of perspective and perception. And that through doing that, the one, the universal one, or God figure, and I think the entire universe is God, becomes more wise because it can accumulate more and more wisdom by getting the sum of all possible subjective perspectives on any truth. I used to collect facts until I realized that all the facts that I thought I was collecting were just my perceptions and really merely facets of a larger truth, a larger prism of truth, and that the truth was somewhere in the middle of all of these things. If I could somehow accumulate as many different perspectives as possible, then I could achieve greater wisdom and knowledge. And the purpose of that wisdom is to gain the empathy.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, the knowledge you think you know and what you focus on is like a laser. And a laser is very, very powerful, right? It can cut through things, right? It has people very sharp, especially when they're completely immersed in their faith, their beliefs, their system, their thinking. But enlightenment is more like a rainbow. It's a spectrum of knowledge, right? But when a person has that focus, they can create, right? True. And man lacks focus. So you do have to draw down from the heavens a belief that you bring to earth so that you can build foundation. Right. But there are people who are existing as stars of ideas and feelings. Right. And then there are the mathematicians. Right. For me, it's thinking, feeling, and math.
Yeah.
Right. You know, feeling, like you said, is proof. It's proof of life. Right. It's personal proof of life. Right. I know I'm alive because I feel. Therefore, I'm alive. Right. And I am thinking. Right. Whether, you know, sometimes we can draw out layers of, you know, who's thinking of the thinker thinking. Right. And it kind of keeps going and you become a part of all is mind, like Hermeticism. But when you're talking about math, math is a different level of proof. Math is God's proof. Right. That he architects everything. Right. My brother, Dr. Wesley, says something. He say, God is a mathematician and a musician.
Absolutely.
Right. So when we think about him being a mathematician, he leaves, you know, his his formulas everywhere for us to discover, right? If we go look at Imhotep, right, in the Doja Step period, pyramids, he didn't have the literal equations written out for people, but it was left in his architecture.
Yeah.
Right? It was left in the beauty of his structures that you know for a fact that he has to know math in order to be able to create and construct. So it's that thing where it's like, you know, one person can have a fact about something, right? But then another person has evidence based on math, right? And that's a conclusion of logic, because one says that logic is a branch of mathematics, right? It's man's ability to think in a mathematical way, oftentimes without knowing the mathematical formula behind it.
You know, it's interesting. I think of philosophy, but philosophy that's applied to me becomes mathematics. Applied mathematics becomes geometry.
I look at philosophy as the art of thinking.
Yeah. So if applied philosophy is mathematics, then applied mathematics is geometry. Geometry is simply the music that we experience with our eyes. And applied geometry becomes physics. And applied physics becomes chemistry. And applied chemistry becomes biology. And applied biology becomes psychology. And applied psychology becomes sociology. And applied sociology becomes philosophy. It's a big circle. Each one is just a different perspective or angle or angel of looking at this one truth. We separate all of these different disciplines into different areas of study, and never the twain shall meet. But actually, it's all interconnected, and it's only us that perceives it as separate.
This is a fact. And it's funny as you say the angels and angles, because that's the way I always look at it, right? The different dimensions. We've discovered different dimensions from a logical standpoint through biology, right? Through chemistry. We either go dive deeper. Now you scroll on Instagram and you can see, you know, cells replicating. One of my first science projects I ever did was on mitosis.
Oh, yeah.
Right? The replication of cells. But I never thought about, like, we've discovered a whole nother dimension in the universe, and that exists in organisms. And then if we study those organisms, then we can create organization ourselves, right? So everything that man has created is just a study of self, right? Because within us are already the answers. How do you create an organized system to breathe life, to construct things over time? Right? Well, look inside you. How do things work?
That can build itself.
Yeah. Information is everywhere. You can log into YouTube right now and type in almost any subject. But I'm gonna be honest with you, you won't even know if it's human generated or if it's just based on the algorithm that figured out that you wanted to find this subject. It queried your information, created an automated process so they can get your eyeballs to try to sell you a product or get advertisement dollars. Humans need humans. We don't work and operate that well learning from machines, because it's the connection to the information, it's the connection to the process that allows us to grow our neurons. It's that connection that allows us to be able to tap into that tapestry of thought to where we need to learn and be in environments to where we feel aspirational and we are inspired and it's empathetic. So today it's not about just having access to the information. It's not just about being able to have democratized education everywhere. It's about connection. Are you actually connected to it? When you are in a community, it reinforces that environment of connection. And that's why being a part of high level is so important. So you are reinforcing an environment with that human connection. I see you, you see me, you feel felt, you want to learn. Information and data, statistics and numbers and automation is fine, especially if you want to create income and utilize the technology for such. But human connection has always been a real source of learning. Don't just go for the information. Go for the community and go for the connection.
Where you say you at? 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 Tap in with the guy.